once again to our show that is called Real Shame. It's a show where we watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots, basically movies we haven't seen that we're rectifying and watching them and then telling you all about them. I'm Adam.
I am Andy.
That's right. Andy this week has picked some movies that I have never seen and never heard of. I think I kind of heard of this one before, but maybe not. And to kick it off, he's going to tell you all about that first film.
Clovis, love that name. Clovis and Lugene Poplin are desperate to be reunited with their infant son, who has been placed with foster parents since Clovis and Lugene are both criminals.
Correct.
But the pair hatches the plan and steals a highway patrol car along with its driver in order to drive across Texas to get to their child in the Sugarland Express.
Clovis? Jesus Christ, have you lost your brains?
QB, you're gonna screw me up.
Nobody breaks out of pre-release. That's just stupid.
If I don't, you're gonna run off.
I thought you said your old lady was in the juke mill.
Oh, no. She's done her time and she's out on her own.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna call a guard for your own good. And this is stupid.
QB. You don't understand, QB. They took my boy, Baby Langston.
What the hell are you talking about, boy? A guard?
Ain't nobody gonna fuss over 4 little old months. Bye, honey.
So the Sugarland Express came out in 1974. It is the debut theatrical film of some director that you probably never heard of named Steven Spielberg.
You're talking about Steven Fableman?
Steven Fableman, yeah. Yeah, so Steven Spielberg, fresh off of not winning a single thing at the Oscars for The Fablemans. No, but he's won other Academy Awards, obviously, in the past, and he's won plenty of awards, trust me. Steven Spielberg, obviously very, very famous, very, very well-known director, but The Sugarland Express was his first film that was made for the theaters. Now, he got his start directing television episodes like Night Gallery, as well as television movies like Duel.
Yep.
And Duel was so popular it was like the TV movie of the week, but it was so popular that they shot some additional scenes for it and gave it a short theatrical run.
Oh, interesting.
But that was not made for the theaters. It was made for TV and then expanded and put into theaters for a brief time in the United States as well as in Europe. But Sugarland Express was made for exhibition in movie theaters. So this is technically his first theatrical feature film. It's screenplays by Hal Barwood and Matthew Robbins. And to do the music score, Steven Spielberg worked with a guy who he's worked with many, many, many times since, a guy by the name of John Williams.
What?
Also was at the Oscars, also did not win, but he's like 90-something years old now.
He's like one of the oldest people nominated for.
Yes. Yeah, I think the oldest or something like that. Yeah. He's been around forever, and he's made such memorable movie music, such iconic
We'll see if
themes.
this one's any memorable.
I guess we will see, yes. But anyway, so this was basically the first of their pairing, Steven Spielberg and John Williams. And I think I read that they have done every film together except for 5 films that Spielberg has done, but every other movie John Williams has scored. The movie stars Goldie Hawn as Lugene Poplin, a very young Goldie Hawn. Mm-hmm. William Atherton as her husband, Clovis Poplin. Michael Sachs plays Patrolman Maxwell Slide. Michael Sachs had appeared in the film version of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5 prior to this. And Ben Johnson, who I know we've seen in the movie Bite the Bullet, the horse race movie. And he has a very undignified death in that movie. He dies like that. But he plays Captain Tanner. He's basically the captain of the highway patrol. He's in charge.
Yeah.
But there's some other people in the cast, but those are the most well-known, so I didn't really list anybody else. This movie is based on a real-life incident that happened in 1969, where a man and a woman did kidnap a highway patrol guy, and they did have like a long caravan of cars driving to try and see their children. There was 2 kids, I think, in real life. But before we get into the real life details and how it deviates or is similar to the movie, you say this is a movie that you hadn't really heard much about.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think I've. Yeah, it was. Yeah, when I looked at it, it looked familiar, but I think if you would have asked me prior to this if it was a Steven Spielberg directed movie, I would have been like, no.
Yeah, well, you're not alone in that.
Yeah.
I don't think many people think of the Sugarland Express whenever they think of Steven Spielberg. I think most people think he started his career with Jaws, which came out a year after this.
I always think of Duel first.
Yeah, Duel. Right.
But I knew that was like his first directed movie, but I did not know what you pointed out was that wasn't directed for the exhibition in theaters and stuff like that.
Well, I think this is the third Steven Spielberg movie we've done. We've done The Color Purple and we've done Empire of the Sun.
Oh, Empire of the Sun's so good.
I think this will be the third Spielberg movie. So we're filling in all those Steven Spielberg gaps.
Yep.
We may have to do Duel one of these days.
We will.
I think he did 4 television movies. Duel is the first one.
Okay.
So and honestly, Duel's the only television movie that he's done that I've seen. I haven't seen the other ones. But Sugarland Express I have seen before, but you've never seen it before, so you didn't really know much about it. So going into it, you're pretty blind.
Very blind.
Is this on par with Spielberg's better films, or is it more like 1941? Most people want to forget it.
I haven't seen 1941, so I don't know. This movie's interesting. I'm trying to figure out how I want to crack into this movie. I think from the onset, you can tell that Steven Spielberg has talent.
Absolutely.
And is an amazing director.
Yep.
Just the way the camera moves, the way everything's shot, it just feels like it's done like by a seasoned professional.
It is could not agree more.
Amazing. Like it is just outstanding, and you're just like watching this movie and you're just like, oh my, the way he's moving this camera around, the shots, the way things are composed is just next level. It's like you could just talent is flying off the screen. And all that kind of stuff. Although I should have kept in mind what David Lean told young Spielberg in The Fabelmans when I was watching this. I didn't think about it until right now, but it would have been interesting to see if he heed that lesson, the horizon and stuff like that. So the camera work and the filmmaking is just next level, and it's I think on par with the best of Spielberg. Where I don't think the movie kind of works for me is that it is very plotting and it's very slow. And for this kind of car chase movie, kind of not, it just really takes a lot of time, and it's really just not that action packed and its depiction and all that kind of stuff. And you do have some like interesting car accidents and stuff like that. And we'll talk about Wednesday's episode if you want more of that kind of stuff. So I wish the movie had a little bit more. It feels like it's very low stakes. Like I know that Goldie Hawn and William Atherton are looking to get their kid back and all that kind of stuff, and that feels high stakes. But the way the movie's presented, it's just kind of this very. It doesn't feel like they're really in a rush. It just feels like it's kind of they're taking their time and all that. And I feel like if the movie had more of a ticking clock, like, or something that was really accelerating it, and if their goal, if they were more in a hurry to get their goal, I think it would have worked out a little bit better for me than what I actually saw on the screen. Yeah. I do think it's interesting, and I like the cars following them and all that kind of stuff, and how they kind of the different communities start becoming like folk heroes and all that kind of stuff, which is interesting and unusual for that to happen. And I wonder how much that happened in real life and all that kind of stuff. I just wish the movie just kind of had a little bit faster pace to it, and I think it would have worked for me a little bit better for that. But that being said, the filmmaking is just it's the best. It's at the best of Spielberg, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I can get into a little bit more in a second, but I want to see where you fall on it with Sugarland Express. So you said you've seen it at least once before.
Just once.
Do you remember how you felt about it when you saw it?
I liked it the first time I saw it, and again, I thought this is a movie that I feel like more people need to be aware of in Spielberg's filmography, kind of like Empire of the Sun or something like that. A movie that people just don't really think of when they think of Spielberg. Everybody thinks of Jaws and Jurassic Park and Close Encounters or whatever, there's because there's so many famous films, but nobody really ever talks about this film. So I remember thinking, gosh, this is good. More people ought to be aware of it. I still feel largely the same. I understand your criticisms, and I couldn't agree more with you as far as you can from the get-go, you can see this guy was destined to go places. And I mean, yes, he had already cut his teeth directing television and working with like people, like Joan Crawford and stuff like that. But still, he's still young. He's still in his 20s when he made this and when he made Jaws. But you can tell, I mean, this guy was destined to make films.
He has the talent. Like I don't think I could, even at 40, could do what he was doing in his 20s. Like none of those shots or ideas even register for me.
Yeah, and yeah, as you said, some of the way that the shots are composed in this film, I'm like, man, oh yeah, very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't find it as slow. It doesn't have. It's not really an action film. The probably the most action packed part is when they end up stopping for the night at like an RV place.
Yeah.
And then those yokels come with their guns.
I love what the cop does to their car.
Big time shootout and everything. But other than that, it's basically them just kind of driving.
And then there's that one part where they're going through the town at night, and then they try to like T-bone them or whatever. And they get by them, all that kind of stuff. So that's a little actiony. But it's just so interesting. Like they're just like going at a pace. Like it's not like, I mean, I think of now in 2022, like the OJ freeway chase, and like he was going way faster than they were and all this kind of stuff. Like they didn't seem to, I guess, I mean, I don't know. It just didn't seem like the Poppins had any desire to get there any quicker, and it seemed like the police force didn't have any desire to slow them down either. It's just it's interesting to me.
I would say my biggest criticism with it is I don't really buy because eventually it's almost like Goldie Hawn and William Atherton and Michael Sachs all kind of start being friends almost. I don't really buy that at all.
I mean, it's like a little Stockholm syndrome kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's completely far-fetched or completely unbelievable. It just wasn't as developed to me as I felt like it could have been. But it doesn't like bother me a huge amount. And I think the movie benefits tremendously. Ben Johnson is perfect as Captain Tanner, I think. You just look at him, he looks like he was born to play like a highway patrol captain. I mean, he's very much in charge. He's got the cowboy hat. I mean, everything. I mean, he's much better off in this movie than he was in Bite the Bullet, where he just dies, like closes his eyes and dies very quickly. But no, I think he is flat out perfection as Captain Tanner. And I do like the fact that he's like, they're just kids. They're just, yes, they kidnapped one of my men. Yes, this is a dangerous situation, but they're kids. They're just, they made a huge mistake. And like those sniper guys basically are going to kill them. Yeah. And he's like, we can't do it. We can't do it, And then finally when he does make the call, so they go and station themselves at the foster parents' house to kill them, to ambush them basically when they get there. You can tell, he's very conflicted about even still doing it then. He wants everybody to walk away from this safely, and he makes that comment about, I've been on the force for 18 years or whatever, and I've never killed anybody, and I'd like to keep it that way. Like, let's end this peacefully. But he realizes they're gonna keep going. They're not gonna stop. They're gonna keep going. So it unfortunately it ends somewhat tragically. But I think he is perfect as Captain Tanner. And, of course, I mean, this is the earliest role that I've ever seen Goldie Hawn or William Atherton in.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they were, like, known before this. Or I
mean, Goldie Hawn had been, like, on Laugh-In, like that television show. I don't know how many movies that she had been in prior to Sugarland Express, but I would venture to say this is one of her earliest, if not her earliest film. I'm not sure about William Atherton, but I know he's in, like, Day of the Locust, which came out right after this. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly when he started his career. But everybody's good.
I read in the trivia that Steven Spielberg hired a bunch of local people to fill out the cast. Where do you feel about that?
I'm so glad you brought that up. I think that with this movie and with Jaws and with like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think he really excels at getting these people that are not professional actors to provide local flavor and local color to the film. Because in Jaws, you've got all the yokels that are wanting to go kill the shark, and you can tell those people are not actors, right? And they're just they're very natural. And I mean, some of it is bad acting, quite frankly, but still they're very, very natural. And and the same thing in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you got a lot of yokels that are out to see the aliens, right? And even professional actors like Roberts Blossom, who looks like they plucked him off the street in order to do something like that. But I love that about this movie. And again, I'm not sure how. It probably didn't happen in real life with all these people like giving them stuff alongside the road. But I like that part. I like that stuff in the movie. It's fun when they're driving through the town and people are giving them they give them a pig.
They give him a pig and she's like, oh, the
all
pig's
kinds
on me.
of stuff. Yeah, she's like, oh, he peed on me. And that seems like it's unscripted.
Oh,
she's like, he peed on me.
I'm willing to bet.
Because she looks at the camera briefly.
I'm willing to bet that was unscripted.
Yeah.
And the kids are sitting on top of the car, the police car. It's like, that's interesting.
Yeah, and taking the little things off of it and stuff like that.
She's giving out like those gold tickets or whatever, the yellow tickets.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. Yeah. I feel like it adds so much, authenticity to this, to Jaws, to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I like all that stuff. Yeah. I think it's great that he did that.
I like the old couple.
I love them. Yeah.
What was the guy's name? Began with the H. It was like Holden or something.
I don't remember. Yeah.
His parents. I really like them. He was driving so slow.
I like the guy.
I like that a lot.
They're fun, and I like the guy that Michael Sachs, the patrolman, has in his car, the drunk guy or whatever that has.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can tell that guy's not a professional actor. Yeah. But he's like, no, oh Lord, let me out, let me out. I think he's got like his dentures out or something, but he's just like, oh, what? And then when they finally kidnap him,
drank before. Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm a good boy, or whatever. And then when they finally, when they kidnap Patrolman Slide, they tell that guy to get out of there, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, sir." He just like takes off running. I love all that kind of local color, local flavor that from the non-actors that he hired. I like that stuff. But
it was also cool to see like a Texas-based movie where they're using like Texas highways and all that kind of stuff. Like I never, that's always fun to kind of see,
Yeah. And cheap gas prices.
There you go. Yeah.
Back in the day when they pull up for the gas, I was like, "Woo, man, that's some cheap gas." I like that. As far as this, as I mentioned earlier, this is based on a real life incident that happened 5 years before this movie came out in 1969. It was I think in this movie, I don't remember I think they do say their ages. They're maybe in their mid-20s. The actual couple was like 21 and 22, so they were very young. And the patrolman that they kidnapped was also young as he is in this movie. I think he was about 27 at the time. And he actually, after it, he wasn't on the force that much long. Well, no, I take that back. I think he was on the force until the late 70s. And then he quit and he did something else. But the husband did actually get killed. They pulled up to the house where there was 2 children in real life. They pulled up to the house where the 2 children were, and they shot him when he got out of the car. But the girl lived, at least until like later. She's dead now, but she lived through the ordeal, and obviously the highway patrolman did as well. So
do we want to talk about the John Williams score a little bit?
Sure.
Did it sound familiar to you at all?
It does. The main kind of theme sounds very much like
the first day of Christmas.
Yeah, like on the first day of Christmas, my true love, because the theme is like it's very similar.
Yeah, it's very close.
John Williams must have been rocking out to some Christmas music.
He was
whenever he wrote this music. Yeah, this is not one of his more memorable scores in my opinion. I don't, aside from its similarity to the first day of Christmas, I don't think it's terrible, but I wasn't like, oh wow, because I think I may have mentioned it even on Real Shame. My favorite John Williams score is actually not something that he's done for Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or whoever the case may be. My favorite John Williams score is from a movie called The Cowboys that John Wayne did from, I think, 1970. So John Williams has definitely done some music outside of Indiana Jones and Superman and Star Wars and Jurassic Park that is also, I think, extremely good. But this is not more memorable to me. Sugarland Express is not, unfortunately.
I think, I'm with you. I think minus the similar to that Christmas song. It's
On the first day of Christmas. Yeah, it sounds very much like that.
It does. I mean, it's so close.
We both thought that while we were watching this film because it does. I mean, it's a dead ringer.
Yeah.
For on the first day of Christmas, but you know there's some. I know you can look up YouTube videos where you can play Star Wars compared to like King's Row or something, like an older score that Eric Korngold or somebody did, and they're very similar as well.
Well,
so.
don't play Star Wars near the planet. The planet music. I forgot who did the planets.
Oh, Holst.
Planets.
Holst, yeah.
Especially like Mars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely some similarities there.
Yeah.
Call your lawyer, Gustav Holst.
Yeah.
So Sugarland Express, you really love the sort of the filmmaking behind it.
I do.
Story wise, leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, I just wish it had like a little bit quicker pace to it. I wish they were kind of in a more of a hurry.
Yeah.
It seemed like everyone's just kind of like laid back.
Yeah.
We'll get them when we get them.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get to Houston when we get to Houston.
Yeah, I'm more favorable on it. I like it, and I think it's definitely a movie of Spielberg's that deserves to be seen. If you have a gap, with Sugarland Express, I would say fill it.
I'm with you. I mean, I think seeing the filmmaking is just worth the price of admission itself.
Yeah, definitely. This movie is 87% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 66% audience score. Roger Ebert, on RogerEbert.com, if I can say that, he gives it 2.5 stars. He wasn't super enthusiastic about it. I think Siskel was similar. Actually, I didn't write Siskel's down, but I think Siskel was similar. But Leonard Maltin, he actually really likes this. He describes it as perfect entertainment in his review, and he gives it 3.5 stars.
That's huge for Maltin.
Yeah, he's all about Sugarland Express. Didn't give it 4 stars. He apparently had half a star's problem with it, but he still likes it a lot. And again, he describes it as perfect entertainment.
There you go. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. It's Monday.
Fun day.
So we like to talk about Mondays on Mondays. We like to talk about what we've been watching. So I'm gonna toss it over to you. Have you been watching anything good lately? I know we've been kind of really busy lately, so there's not a whole lot we can do. We just had the Oscars not too long ago.
There's only one movie that I've watched recently that I can remember well enough to comment on, and it's a movie with Ethan Hawke called Predestination. Came out in like 2014, something like that.
So I've never seen it, but I know a lot about it.
Yeah, so it is taken from a Robert Heinlein science fiction story, and I didn't know anything about it. I think I knew that it was kind of mind bendy and whatnot. It was like science fiction, but I didn't really know much about the plot or really at all. I would say the plot is interesting enough to make it watchable, but the movie, it's so weird because, I mean, it's a weird movie. It's a weird plot.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but I will say it's a very odd, weird plot. But it's interesting. But the movie, to me, almost exists purely to explain itself. It doesn't really work so much as entertainment. It works as, hey, here's a really crazy time-shifting weirdo idea, a la, Primer or something like that, that's like complicated. But I don't know how to make a movie about it, but I'm just going to kind of explain it to you, and then that's pretty much it. So I mean, it's a movie, but it doesn't have much in the way of entertainment value, I found. To me, it just was more about exposition and explaining what they're trying to do, and that was it. I mean, it that may sound kind of funny to say, but it really, to me, I was like, what's the point of this film other than just to be convoluted and complicated and to explain that, how it all kind of ties together. And I went, after the movie was over, I looked to see how close it was to the Robert Heinlein story. Apparently it's super close. Okay. Like the Robert Heinlein short story, they added a little bit to pad it more for a movie, but the basic plot details, at least according to what I read, are virtually identical. And I mean, Robert Heinlein, famous science fiction author. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I've never really read his stuff, but I'm sure he was a very brilliant guy. And this story is really interesting. But as far as like just an entertaining movie, I mean, give me Looper or Primer or something any day over this.
Triangle.
Triangle, yeah, Chrono Criminus, Time Crimes, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. Give me any of those movies over this. I mean, this movie. I watched it streaming. It's on Hulu, so again, it's not like I paid money to watch it, but or I guess the price of a subscription to Hulu. But I don't know. It's weird, interesting. Other people that watched it around the same time as I did liked it a heck of a lot more than me. I wouldn't say that it was terrible. I didn't hate it, but I was like, I don't really understand the point,
Yeah.
other than it just being complicated to be complicated, and then to sort of spell it out to you. This is what's happening, and then the movie ends. So it's kind of weird in that respect. But I think I'm in the minority. I feel like a lot of people are like, man, this movie's so crazy. I loved it. I didn't. All those other time travel kind of movies are better,
Yeah.
in my opinion. What have you been watching?
All right. I have not seen Predestination. Was it Predestination?
Predestination, yeah.
What I've been watching is a TV series sequel to a beloved movie of mine that I like.
Which I watched recently.
The original.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a movie that I like a lot. It's beloved to me, I guess is the way I'd say it. And that movie is History of the World Part 1. The movie is one of those comedies that I watched growing up and was just seminal to me as a.
It was like a cable comedy that you would see on cable or anything.
It's interesting because I remember there's a guy I used to ride the dart bus to school, and there was a kid that rode from my neighborhood that rode with me, and he introduced me to History of the World Part 1. I think he had the VHS on his house, and we watched it. And then I somehow acquired it thereafter. Not from, like, I purchased it myself or whatever and watched it over and over again. I thought it was the most hilarious thing. I can still quote some of the bits and all that kind of stuff. And, you know.
That kid's name was Albert Einstein.
His name was Albert Einstein. He grew up to be Albert Einstein.
All right.
He's also the kid that introduced me to Sega CD for the first time. And he introduced me to that Bob Rivers Twisted Christmas album I like so much.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, there's that seminal part of my life where he introduced me to a couple things that have stuck with me through my whole life.
You were one of the 3 people he introduced Sega CD to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That never really took off.
Like Echo the Dolphin.
That never really took off.
So the series is on Hulu. It's History of the World Part 2. There's 8, like they're 30-minute-ish episodes. I've watched 7 of 8. So I need to watch
What's
the
the
last
hold
one.
up, man? Come on.
Time. I know I messaged you about it. I think after watching the first couple episodes, I was really keen on it.
Yeah.
And I think after getting through 7, I've cooled on it a little bit.
Oh.
I like Ike Barinholtz. I think he's fun and interesting. Nick Kroll is good. He's a really good comedian generally and really good at doing impersonations and stuff like that. But I find his main character he's playing to be really grating in his portrayal. And I think the biggest issue with this show is I was expecting each episode to focus on different time periods. But what it seems like is they've kind of have 7 or 8 time periods they're focusing on, and each episode grabs a handful of those. So you'll see the same characters, the same location, and kind of the same story through multiple episodes. And I really wish it shortened those, because I feel like now that I'm 7 episodes in, those comedy bits are getting a little long in the tooth. And I wish they would change it up to do something else. Like maybe if they only lasted 3 episodes and then we got a brand new set of circumstances and set of things to dive into for another 3 episodes, I think would be more interesting than, having a handful that we're jumping in and out of, for 8 episodes and stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I do like it. I think I'm gonna obviously finish it. I just wish I was excited about it as I was like 2 or 3 episodes in as I am 7 episodes in. But I think it's like, if you have Hulu, if you like History of the World Part 1, it's worth seeing. The other thing is, I wish they had either some. So Mel Brooks does some narrating in the show, not a whole lot, and you see him in the beginning. I wish they either got AI to do his narration or someone else to do an impersonation of him, because his voice sounds so frail.
Yeah.
And because he's he's
in
old.
his 90s. Yeah.
His voice sounds so frail that I just don't think. I think it takes away more than it's adding to it, And I wish it was something like with the consent of AI, he had AI go in and do his thing, because his voice just sounds like I don't know any other way to describe it, but just really, really frail whenever he's narrating or doing the talking, and it's more distracting than I think it really gives to the show.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I am. Like I said, I'm kind of mixed. I wish maybe it's gonna end strong and I'll be like this. I'm over the moon. I'm hoping it does, but right now I'm just kind of mixed on it. I do, some of the skits I really like. Some of them I'm just like, okay, I get it. Let's move on to something else. So that's where I am with History of the World Part 1. All right, so that's what we've been watching. Andy, you picked a movie about a car chase, one of Steven Spielberg's early directed movies. What did you decide to pair with it?
Yeah, so I knew pretty quickly that I wanted, since this is the theatrical directorial debut of a famous director. It's a movie in the 1970s, and it involves a lot of driving.
Yep.
I wanted to pair it with another first-time directorial effort from a movie in the 1970s that features a lot of driving.
There can't be more than one.
There is more than one. And this is another famous director that everybody knows. I would say he's a household name, just like Steven Spielberg. His name is Ron Howard.
What?
And his directorial debut came in 1977 with a film with no relation to the video game called Grand Theft Auto. So we will talk about Grand Theft Auto on Wednesday.
All right, guys. Well, stay tuned to that. Please let us know what you think about Sugarland Express. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff. It really does help, and we really do appreciate it. And stay tuned for Wednesday when we find out if Grand Theft Auto steals our hearts or not. And we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one. Bye.